You are listening to the Red Pill Chronicles, where we help awakening souls deal with the blue pill world. I'm your host, John Dennison, and together we'll explore how to take an inner approach to your outer affairs so you can build a better life and a better world to live it in. Hello, my friend. John here. It's been a while since we've talked, and to be honest, I'm not quite sure where we're going to go today with the show. I've been quiet for these last several months, and I've had the urge to speak with you, but every time I do, something happens that seems to make it hard to get the words to come out. Primarily, I've been watching the polarity wars unfold. And I say polarity wars, I think you understand by now that I talk about the fact that the energies bombarding our world are causing our energies to vibrate. And being in a dualistic world, we swing between two poles, positive, negative, or however else you want to look at it. But what's happening is that our inner conditions, our biases, judgments, desires, all that stuff that's in us, distort the way we perceive what's going on. And they make it, and the stronger those attachments, the more they hold us toward one side or the other of our polarity shifts. The situation that we're facing right now is that most of the world is going through these polarity wars, and you can see the effect of it with how the people get so worked up and they take sides. Now, most of those sides seem to be split here in the United States with Democrat or Republican, but it really doesn't have to be that way. It's all of our polarities are vibrating, and when we have attachments, we tend to be stuck in some aspect of those vibrations that are allowing us to see that we're not moving very smoothly through the energies as they're changing. Again, this is a period of time when the energies are so intense that it takes us a real effort to try to just be like a cork in the ocean, where we're bobbing up and down in the waves without really being attached. If you've ever sailed or been on a boat and you anchor your boat, you're limited by the length of the chain of your anchor chain, or a rope, obviously, if you're using a rope instead of a chain. But the anchor, if any of you have been through a hurricane that have a boat, know that when you tie your boat down and you don't give it enough slack to rise with the waters as they rise, your boat's going to sink. It's going to be dragged under. And this is what's happening to a lot of us. We're so tied up in the way we see things and what we think we believe, that we're just our attachments are dragging us down and making it. What we're seeing is the tendency to fight over them with people that believe the opposite. But really, if you stop to look at what you believe, I think you'll find that it's probably not as black and white as your polarities are making it seem to be at the moment. But we'll get back to that in a little bit. Back to me here. Over these last few months and looking at this period, it's been a very strange period going through through watching COVID unfold with the lockdowns and the fights over whether they should be wearing masks or not wearing masks, and the restrictions on movement and assembly, and the implications for our freedoms and martial law. It's really been a strange time. And to boot, it's been punctuated by these protests that have turned into riots, as some members of the community have decided that they need to express themselves by acting out against the status quo, the establishment, the system, however you want to see it. And I understand their sentiments, but I do not approve of their methods. Because frankly, with what I'm seeing from them and from others that come across the news and social media, it's disgusting the way they treat their fellow humans. And I don't care who it's by, what your race is, what your sex is, what your what your sexual orientation is, or any of the other immutable characteristics that you may want to divide yourself away from your fellow humans. We've got to learn to treat people better than this, because this bit of fighting and destroying things and violence and continual conflict against everyone and everything it's a shame, is what it is. And I don't know. To be honest, I got to tell you, I'm really thrilled that so many people are taking an interest in reshaping the world to have a better experience of life. But the problem with the reshaping of the world right now is the reshaping of the world is trying to be through the force of will to impose what you want upon other people. Not necessarily you, but what any of us want upon others. This is the issue of what we're going through as a world, which is the interaction of will and desire between individuals. And again, as we've gone through before, when we've talked about the law of one, we've talked about service to others versus service to self, and how we each generally in our evolution have to make a selection of which of those paths that we're going to evolve along. And again, I speak to those who are in service to others, or at least are choosing to follow that path. They may not yet have developed or gotten to a point in their lives where they feel that they have anything to actually give or serve others with. But nevertheless, it's the concept that others are important, just as important as we are, and so we have to honor them and give them all our support in expressing the divinity that is at their core, as we would expect them to give us the same opportunity. Unfortunately, that is not what's happening in our world. We're going through a period where it is this imposition of wills upon those who do not want to go the same direction is getting stronger and stronger, and it's what's behind this cancel culture, that people think that they know best. That's the kind of world that they want to live in, and they're unwilling to tolerate anybody who doesn't want to see it their way. And again, that's because of these polarities that are vibrating so much, and they're so attached to the way they see stuff that they're just unable to consider anything else. And this is not a personal fault of them or any of us. It just happens to be the way that we're built at respective points along our evolutionary curve. But right now, that is making it very difficult to listen to other people or consider other points of view. And to be honest, that is a big reason why I have hesitated to get back to doing the podcast, because, frankly, I am not one who goes with the crowd. And if you're listening to me, you probably don't either. I think you probably are one who sets your own course and decides what to do. Now, you may care about what other people think. You may try to modify your behavior to accommodate their needs, or going along to get along. But generally speaking, those who follow me would be said to think for themselves, that they take everything in with a grain of salt that happens in their reality, and that they make their own decisions of what the course is for them, as well as how to filter and allow in the materials that are invading their consciousness or invading their awareness, as they try to carve out lives that work for them. I can tell you that this period, though, has been very, very interesting, because I go through periods where I'm really, really immersed in watching the battles that are going on, particularly in social media and the news, and following the narratives and watching the efforts to control us and public opinion that are being taken place on so many levels, and the efforts of others to resist those. And it's setting up an interesting dynamic here between, how would you say, the status quo and whatever is going to come after this period of change is completed. Now, what change is going to something that we're going to have forever, and it's going to continue. So boom, it's done, and nothing else is going to happen. It's going to be a period of continually accelerating change. as these energies come in and we move closer and closer to the fifth dimensional energies of where we hope our world is evolving to be honest with you, I don't know that it is. Because looking at me and my response, my inner responses to what's going on in the world, I'm finding I'm less and less interested in trying to impact how others see and interact with that world. I used to take it upon myself and I feel that I was involved in a mission to try to bring forth a message to turn this stuff away and give people the tools in order to make better choices and to be able to choose peace by focusing upon how their lives impact the evolution of their souls. Because your life is a stop on that journey, and every experience of your life contributes to how your energy fields evolved, how the vibration and frequency and hue of your energies, your different chakras. And every life is a little different because we're all working on different aspects of what we need to become whole. And it is this wholeness, the integration of the ego and the soul, or the higher self, however you want to see it, that is the perspective that I've shared. And as I look at the situation in the world, I see, well, what good is it to tell it to the people that want to fight? Because people that want conflict are going to find somebody to fight with. There's something inside them that needs to be expressed that way through the conflict, through the being contentious, being argumentative, acting out and being violent. That there's something in them that they've picked up along the way that has to be expressed that way. That may or may not provide a situation for them to evolve, or it may provide them a karmic situation that they have to live down in future days, months. But as you know, looking at what's happened here, as we take a look at the situation we've been in, this has been one of very high emotional intensities. That's because the energies that are coming through are affecting all of us in slightly different ways. But one way that seems to be very common is the excitement of the emotional energy fields within our 3D reality. And they're such that these energies are becoming so intense that when we tap into them through these hidden conditions within us that are triggered by something that happens in the world, that these energies that come out are just so intense and destructive, both to us as well as to the people that they're directed at. And I would use the whole Trump derangement syndrome tendency to illustrate this point, is that there are a lot of very, very intelligent, very well balanced, and good people that are caught up with the hatred of Donald Trump. That is a flame that has been fanned since they were elected. Now, I realize your polarity has you seeing it a certain way if you're one of those. And I don't blame you if that's the way you see it, and that's what you've been fed, and the information that's been used to stoke your fire. It's a very natural feeling to be that way, but you have to understand that when you find yourself caught up in these emotional swings, the problem usually isn't the person that they're directed at. It's usually in you, and it's more a matter for you to find why it is that you are carrying such emotions. Why are you being triggered so? And then to address the things within you that make you susceptible to that. Because you can't do anything about anyone else. I mean, other than voting when it comes to in November, there's nothing more that you can do to make Donald Trump or Nancy Pelosi or anyone else any different than they are. They're going to continue to play their role as they see it and as it unfolds. And believe me, they're in a really complex situation that's playing out under the divine plan right now that we're all having to try to adjust to. But basically what they are doing is they are doing things behind the scenes where they're basically in battles with each other, and not just those two, but myriad numbers of people. on all sides of this. And they're all sort of at war with each other, each trying to get their own way, each trying to force their view of how things should be, and also to decide who's going to benefit from the operations of government. I think if there's anything any of us see is that government isn't serving us the way we want to be served. I don't think that there's a clear picture of how we want to be served, but people want to be treated more fairly. They want to sense that the government is working for them and not against them, and that's not the case at any level of our government. Perhaps a little closer at the state or local levels, a little more beneficial to us at those levels, but nevertheless, there are still all these agendas and interests that are being played out that really have very little to do with any of us individually. That this is in the macro, that they're serving another interest, another narrative, another play that they're trying to do. They're all in a tug of war for power. They all want to rule us. They all want to make our world in the image that they have for us. Yet, it's not taking us where we want to go. It's not bringing us close. It hasn't so far brought us closer to loving each other, especially considering our differences. It hasn't allowed us to be more tolerant or to communicate more effectively or to be just be better people, to be good to each other, to do unto others as we want them to do unto us. I see all this happening out here in the world, and I feel like a moth being drawn to the flame. I want to turn away from it, and I just can't. It's just like it's consuming. That it's just sucking us all into this flame of their conflicts. And I find that the only way to detach and stay out of that fire, to not be drawn into the fight, to not be sucked up into the passions and the hatred and all the rest that goes along with it, is to detach, to recognize that ultimately what they're fighting about is not what I'm working for. I mean, there are elements of what all of them are fighting for that I'm about. But I recognize as I look at both sides that those elements that they're about are all part of me. I'm on all sides of this thing. I want a more responsive government that is less self-perpetuating, less self-aggrandizing of power. I want a government that is honest and transparent and accountable to the people. Because we have all seen far too many cases over the years of government at all levels where you get a government employee, they just don't give a flying freak about you. It's just like they have their set of rules or their view of how things should be, and that's how it's going to become. And if you get in the way, good luck, because they'll bring all the powers of their office and all the powers within their ability to try to force their will upon you. So what we've done was we've created a government where we've got this army of bureaucrats that's out there trying to enforce this politically imposed will that is a really confusing will because it's been done by over many years, multiple parties as shifting views of the different interests of the years, and of course the alignments of the power groups. And it makes it very, very hard for us to function. Very hard for us to maintain lives that serve us without getting dragged into those battles. And I guess that's why I wanted to talk with you. Not that I had really so much to say, but that I suggest the same thing I've been suggesting to everyone for the last dozen years or so, is try not to take sides in their wars. Because when you do, you condemn yourself to conflict. And if you condemn yourself to conflict, it's going to be very hard for you to find peace. You have to win outright and absolutely or else that conflict will perpetuate, and will just keep going on and on and on. I mean, witness the Hatfields and the McCoys, which I know very well about because I was born in an area and where the Hatfields and McCoys resided and did their damage. As a matter of fact, our family property had been obtained with my great grandfather traded property. He and his brothers traded property with the Hatfields for a valley outside of Charleston in West Virginia, along Cabin Creek. So yeah, I know those feuds, and I know blood feuds go on forever. And what we're in the middle of is a blood feud, which a lot of, and not just one, but we're seeing countless things from our history coming up that have just never been resolved. We've never resolved the issue of slavery and the way we treat each other. And the fact that people that be this melting pot that has had this strange relationship with slavery over the years. And slavery is not, I mean, when you think of slavery here, we think of the black slaves being brought over from Africa. But there were a lot of other slaves in this country besides them that everyone seems to forget about, including indentured servants, or indentured servitude, where people were basically signed over to other people and were forced to serve them for their entire lives, sometimes by their parents, sometimes as passage on a ship to get over here. It could be for many reasons. Sometimes it's voluntarily, sometimes it's imposed upon them as a result of some other event or actions. So this activity of imposing one's will and forcing somebody to work, at least in my view, it transcends race, but it is certainly very much wrapped up in race here, in the history here in this country, that we have not figured out how to address. We've gone through this period of the last half of the 20th century, where we were trying as a nation to enforce the integration of our society, where people of all races would have equal rights and live side by side. And to a large extent, it has succeeded, though the social engineering efforts have not been without their winners and losers. It's not important to get into who those are right now, but just to know that every time we make a choice, it comes with a high cost. Doing good often comes at the cost of doing bad. And this is one thing that my uncle always told me. Talked about. He always cussed under his breath about the do-gooders, because they're always sticking their nose in everybody else's business and telling them what to do, and then they're messing it up. They think they know well, but they don't. Their good intentions gone bad. We all know about good intentions gone bad. And it was probably bad intentions that went worse when we went into slavery. But I think the biggest problem that we've run into slavery is that we have never really stopped to look at each other and say, hey, how are we going to live together in a way where you can feel valued and respected and have the ability to create a life that works for you, while you provide me the same right and the same ability. This is really where we're trying to get to in a fifth-dimensional world, where everyone is equal, recognizing that equality comes from the soul, not from the opportunities that they get in this life or the results that they have. We are equal based upon the fact that we are all coming from the same source. Our life experiences are not equal. And anyone who holds out to you that they're going to be a system that they're going to be able to make it where those are equal is selling you a bill of goods. And you can see that from many of the socialist countries that have been through and what's gone on in the Soviet Union and Venezuela now, and with the CCP in China, that individuals have no rights. The only way to create their utopia is to make everybody to have no rights, where the only rights are given to those few people who decide that they gravitate toward being in power. Well, that uniparty state Now, even though they're a uniparty, let's say, we'll take the CCP as an example. There are factions, primarily two factions within it. They call them the white hats and the black hats. That fight it out for that power. Well, it's kind of like, think about our political parties here, except that we, the individuals, get to participate in it. That the sovereignty, that the real power behind their battles of the Democrats and Republicans are us. That's why they work so hard to control the narratives and the stuff that they feed us, even though most of it's lies or distortions, used to control us and make us do what they want us to do. Whereas there are no such illusions over in China, where we sit there and watch what they've done and we shake our heads and we scream about it, but they chose to go that route. Now the issue is what happens when those two systems collide, when the nations get strong enough and powerful enough that you have collisions of the ideology with their own society and their own interests, even at the expense of the rest of the world, witnessing how they handled the COVID situation and the release of allowing people to travel to the rest of the world, but not within their own country. Anyway, that's pretty much the situation that we're in, because right now all we're seeing is everywhere it's stirring the pot of these different interests, whether it's geopolitical interests, whether it's personal interests, whether it's political interests, whether it's financial interests. All of them are being mixed together in this big pot where everybody is trying to force their will, or at least influence the outcome, so it's going to be less harmful and more beneficial to them. Well, this is really the point of it all, of going to a fifth dimensional energy. Is a fifth dimension, as I've been trying to share over the years, it is a dimension that is going to be marked not by contests of will, but by the inspiration of your inner source, moderated by your own feelings and beliefs for the whole and where you fit into the whole, but not forced into it by the whole, but by your, and not shamed into it. It's just strictly a matter of you have that concern and you work to try to harmonize yourself with the world around you, even while you're building the life that you need for yourself. And as this harmony, it's really the principle of Taoism that Lao Tzu taught and wrote about, the Tao Te Ching, and it is truly going to be a foundation of the fifth dimensional energies that are coming, and this fifth dimension as our world moves into it. Again, as you would remember, in the Christian tradition, they talked about it. 1,000 years of peace and prosperity following this terrible period of Armageddon and war and the leading up to the Antichrist and the return of Christ, which is all supposed to be happening now. Who knows? But what we do know is that it's leading us to the brink of our own destruction, because we can't live with anybody else. We don't want anything to do with anybody else. And when we do try to even assert even the smallest amount of our desires and will on others, it's met with a violent resistance. So we have to learn how to live in a situation where we don't do this. And that means we have to evolve. And this has been the problem of humanity over the years, is that we have failed to evolve. We have failed to become more than we were. I mean, we're living in a world where science and technology are just accelerating at amazing speeds. But humanity hasn't kept up. We're still living in the Stone Age mentally. We still have the same emotions. We still have the same mental thought processes. We still have the same desires and suspicions about other people, and beliefs that we can't have ours, but they get theirs. And that just isn't true, but that mindset is what pits us against each other. And that's got to change. We have to change. We have to become more than we are. And what's happening, and we're seeing in the news, is that we are not changing. There was a cigarette commercial back in the 70s, 60s, I don't know, I think it was Territon, a brand that has long since disappeared. And their commercial was, "I'd rather fight than switch." Well, that's what's happening. People would rather fight than give up what they think and give up what they want and give up what they believe. And they don't trust it ever to work out unless they get in and try to micromanage that future. And it's that conflict over that micromanaging of the present to bring about a desired future that is leading us to this path of down this path of destruction. We're just not able, under the old paradigm, to allow other people to do what they want to do. Because we fight. We think we have to be right. We think we have to tell them what to do. We think we have to make them bow to our will. So, if you're listening to this, you are one of those people that would fall into the category of what I would call an awakening soul. It's for your life and world that don't necessarily fit within the common mainstream narrative. You're starting to see some of the abuses and things that are happening and have been happening in our world for a long time that have been hidden from view, and you're seeing those. But more than that, you're starting to see and question the nature of your being and what your life is about. And that is what this event, this time of changes that we're going through, is all about. It's all about you. So you can see your own conflicts within you, so that you can understand and see the inner conditions that are set in motion when you're tweaked by somebody who disagrees with you, or so that you can realize that the beliefs and the perspectives that they bring you, or vice versa, don't necessarily bring you more choice, but limit you into a set of choices that means they're only going to be fulfillable down that one path that you see. The very narrow blinders of your view are limiting you to be able to find other solutions. But most of all, what this time is for, this time of separation from the world around you, this time of introspection, is to allow you to expand your own consciousness. And as you expand your consciousness, and I expand mine, and others expand theirs, to begin to evolve our world toward a new direction. So, but consciousness, what consciousness is an awareness that brings the power of choice, that allows you to determine the direction of change. It's less important what choice you make than the sheer fact that you are having to experience the prospect of making that choice and then going down the path that you select. Because whatever experiences were needed to be created for you under one choice are going to be created just in a different way in the other choice. So one path is as good as the next from a spiritual perspective. But from a life perspective, it's most certainly not, because one choice can have disastrous implications for your life, whereas another may not. But what I want you to see most of all is to realize that you are duality. You are on both sides of the issue. You are both the governing as well as the governed. You are oppressor and the oppressed. You are the creator of these experiences, and you are the receiver of these experiences. And most of all, you are the one observing and processing those experiences. And to each of those phases is for you to bring greater consciousness to your affairs. You can't control how your body responds to the experiences that you have. Just like you can't sit here and generally you can't sit here and consciously decide that you're going to engage in some activity which is going to change the vibrations of one chakra or another or make your body function more harmoniously. Now, I know that there are healers that will say otherwise. I don't want to differ with them or I just want to respect their perspective, but to suggest that perhaps there is more than you know, because there is a wholeness that is missing when we're in this world. You can feel it. There's like a longing inside of you that wants to know this part of yourself and wants to understand why your life is the way it is, and why it's unfolding, and why your reality is the way it is, and and most of all, what you're supposed to do within it that's going to make it work better for you. But that's a level of perspective that very few people bring to life. Because most of the time we get so caught up in the daily grind of trying to work for a buck and survive that we really never stop to think about what it means to thrive. And I think, if anything, for us to take from this is that surviving alone is not enough. That we have a desire to thrive. That there is and that we're always working to try to be better at our creating a better experience of life. There are two terms I want you to know about here that are really important in terms of understanding this, and they're Japanese. The first term is kaizen, K-A-I-Z-E-N, and the second is ikigai, A-K-I-G-A-I. Kaizen is the practice of continual self-improvement. It's the striving and search for perfection. Efforts in that area, such as a skill, but you're perfecting yourself as well, your ability to control yourself, that the mind controls the body and the emotions, and that you are the master of your own fate and directing your energies toward the craft that you feel is where your creative energies are best applied in that moment of your reality. Ikigai, on the other hand, is this term which talks about living a life of joy and fulfillment. And it's this place, Ikigai is the place where an intersection of four different aspects occur. First is that it's where your skills and abilities, where you have something of value that you can give back to your world, that you can use to create a life for yourself and create value for your world. Okay, the second of which is your passion. In other words, what is it that turns you on? What is it that makes you get out of bed in the morning? What is it that's going to make you want to fight and continue fighting even when you don't want to, when the circumstances have got you so backed up that you just can't stand to do it anymore, but you know you have to because something inside you won't let you stop. It's like a combination of a hobby on steroids turned into a mission to make a difference in your life and the lives of others. But mostly by making that difference, by finding a place in your life where you can apply your creative energies, where your passion is greatest, where your enthusiasm is there to keep you going every day. Okay, those are the first two areas. The other areas or intersections have to do with other people. First, they got to want and need what you want to provide for them. If they don't, there will be no demand for your services. There won't be any job for you. There's nothing for you to do. So you got to find out what you like, that they will need. So you find out what turns you on that other people can use. And the last thing is they got to be willing to pay you for it, or somebody has to. If you do it because you love it, and you're good at it, for other people to enjoy, but they don't want to pay you for it. It's just a hobby. It's just a feel-good activity. And I can tell you a lot of my work on this path has been that. People have had to pay to get, such as to read my book or to buy the book. That's only because there are lots of costs involved in trying to bring it out to where you can see it. Most of the stuff I've put up is for free. As the Dalai Lama said at a seminar I was at down here at the University of Miami about 15 years ago or so, the Dharma is free. The Sangha we charge for. Sangha being community, or where people come together and interact, learn. But the Dharma, the teachings, were free. Well, I've always worked from that perspective, that the teachings are free. There's no secret to the material, and there's no hiding what I have. I've given you everything that I've had. If you go back over the other pods, you read my books, you read all the hundreds of blog posts I've got over on the different websites, you'll see that it's always giving you a different perspective, a different understanding of your reality and primarily of yourself in relationship to that reality. But it wasn't for a fee. Therefore, it was not ikigai. Now I'm being put in a situation now where I'm being called to find ikigai for myself. Just as perhaps you are. We all are, because our lives are being turned upside down by COVID, and a lot of businesses are failing, jobs are lost, and we're having to start over. So if you're having to do this, I suggest if you do that, first obviously you got to eat. You got to put a roof over your head. But assuming you can find something that you enjoy doing, try to do it in that area so that you have an opportunity to breathe life into your passions. Because that will give you a much greater ability to move through these difficult times. And believe me, we are just hitting the tip of a very, very large iceberg. This time of changes is going to be a very turbulent ride for us. It's going to be like passing humanity through the eye of the needle. We are going to undergo great changes if we make it through, and if we don't, we're going to destroy ourselves and the lives that we know now. And if you get attached to it and try to hold on, then good luck, because you're going to be riding the dragon. Because those emotions that are attached to that, whether you succeed or fail, are going. Now, maybe you are being called to do that. Maybe that your inner voice is saying that you need to do this and be in the middle of that fight. And if it is, then God bless you. All more power to you. But for most of us at this point, it is a matter that we are not being called into the fight, and that it's powers of discrimination that we have to exercise to decide whether we're being called, and if so, how we're going to engage in the battle. I don't know if any of you are familiar with this thing called QAnon, which has been denigrated by all the powers that be, which obviously should probably make you want to put more stock in it if you're anyone who takes a view that they're not doing us any favors, and the people that are supposedly leading us and working for us. But Q has had a phrase there, which is that he picked up actually from a bell that was on John F. Kennedy's boat, and that was later also on a boat in the movie White Squall. And it's a saying that goes like this: where we go one, we go all. Now, a lot of the people that follow Q have been interpreting it as to draw together all of Q's followers and the believers of the world that he's pointing out to them. And I use he as a metaphorical reference here. I have no idea whether Q is a male or a female or a group of people or even a bunch of ETs. It really doesn't matter. What matters is that the concept of we are all going to the same place. So the question is, how are we going to get there? I don't think I can get you to come along with me by beating you over the head with a stick or forcing you to pay me money for anything in particular, much less because of the color of my skin or the fact that I have not had the same benefit, or as they use the term, privilege, as others. It is a matter that you are being shown things by Q and asked to reconcile them with the stories that you're being told about your reality, and realizing that the story that they're telling you ain't the way that it really is. And unless you can regain the power, and we the people can regain the power, we got one hell of a problem ahead of us. Because we see governmental power is expanding, and combined with the tech industry, that they are taking over all aspects of our lives. They're talking about chipping us when they give us vaccines. They're changing currencies so they can track where all the dollars are. It's all moving toward a system of control, command and control. And this is where we as individuals have to stand and say, hey, look, that's not the kind of world we want to live in. Humanity is at a crossroads right now. It's going to have to decide what kind of world it wants. And if it wants a world of centralized control where individuals are dirt and those people with power sit at the top and take advantage of everybody else, then one way or another we're going to continue with more of the same. It's just whether it comes in a democracy, wrapped in democracy, or in communism, or whatever, it doesn't much matter. It's still the same impact. Them with power and gold make the rules. Well, what we want to do is get to a world where the individuals make the rules and the individuals benefit, and those who will lead us are getting it out of the way. And it's getting to that world that we have to focus on. Is how are we going to get to that world? And I don't see any way to get to that world unless we are making peace with others within it. If we can't fight them and win, what are we going to do? Fight them and lose? Yeah, why fight them at all? Why not find a way that we all can redirect our attention away from the petty squabbles of living in this world toward where we're all trying to go, and how we can make better use of the experiences that come along the way that are going to help take us there. So I beseech you, as an awakening soul, to step back from the fray. Don't take sides in their silly games. Your job is to survive the storm and to lay a foundation upon which a new world can be built. And if you think you can build your new world by imposing your culture or your views upon me or anyone else, you're going to have a fight on your hands. And if you wish to fight, I'm sure there will be people that will pick up the mantle and do battle with you. But those who are awakening are going to pull out of the battle, because they realize the battle, fighting the battle, is not only not taking us where we want to go, but it is being manipulated by others in power that want to pit us against each other to keep them in power and allow them to continue draining the spoils of war from our own coffers. We have a very, very difficult time ahead of us. I don't profess to know how to wave a magic wand and make it all go away. That's why I kind of sit here and just kind of watch it all as an observer. Because I haven't seen where we as individuals can go into the fray and make a difference. The only difference that I see that we can make is to use the separation that we have and to begin setting up our own parallel systems, our own means of interacting with each other. I mean, because one thing you're realizing right now as you're locked up is you've been separated from the rest of the world around you. It's creating a desire, a demand within people to connect with others, to be close again, instead of to be drawn out. But right now we're in bunker mentality. We're all made to hide away in our homes and not have anything to do with anybody else. And this mindset is totally against everything we're working to do, where everybody is connected and working to move everybody up toward the light. Not in terms of equality in this world. I don't know any way to make that happen. But to do it with respect, where there is the we're here and get the experiences that we came for, without being dragged deeper into the polarity wars and playing out of the excess or of opposite polarities. So you've got to survive. You have got to make it through this. Not because of your life. Your life is important. Believe me, it's important. But you are important beyond the scope of your own existence. You are important for the contribution that you create to this reality, to the creative energies that you contribute to the collective consciousness that creates this reality. If you want to create a reality of greater conflict and fear and divisiveness, then I invite you to take sides in the games that are going on out there and give it your all. Fight until you can't fight anymore, and then fight some more. But if you truly, truly are wanting to get to a better world, to a fifth dimensional reality of peace and love and prosperity, where people are more greatly connected from their hearts, not because someone else wants them to make them that way, where they're not controlled, but where they freely devote their energies for the expansion, then I certainly hope that you will find a way to deal with whatever it is that's holding you down, getting you down and holding you back. Because if you get immersed in it, it's just going to keep you locked into this world. And if too many of us stay locked in this world, it is not going to ascend. It's going to stay, and it's going to take the spiral and stay into third density. And unfortunately, those of us who are here who want something different aren't going to get it. And we're just going to be left to leave another life in frustration that we failed at our task to bring about the Golden Age. The Golden Age is what we are all about. It is about bringing humanity into the next level of its evolution. Some people seem to think they have to come near destroying it in order to get us to change. I think simply showing people another way would be a good start, instead of trying to force them to come along. But you have to decide that for yourself. How you decide, road and this unfolding civil war that's going on in our country or world. Try to bring more consciousness to it. Try to walk the middle path that the Buddha talked about. Try to be in harmony as much as you can with those on both sides of the fight. Not to try to get them to see it your way or to try to get them to change, but just so that because you realize that they are part of you. They are part of the world that we're trying to create along too. And we're not going to get them to come along by making war on them. Anyway, I don't know if I made any sense today. It's been a long time since and I know a lot of ground is going to bounce back and forth and didn't follow my notes. Shouldn't have had them in the first place, I guess. Thank you for being with me today. My name is John Dennison, and if you found this valuable, I hope you'll share it with your friends. If you find you need any help with along the way for yourself, please feel free to visit me at johndennison.com, where I offer a free consultation to help with whatever's going on. God bless you indeed. Go with love. You have been listening to the Red Pill Chronicles, where we help awakening souls move in a better way through a blue pill world. For more information, visit us at peaceoptions.com to explore how you can find your peace through knowing yourself and following your inner voice. Or at missionlaunch.com, where we offer coaching and consulting to help you make the difference in your world.